that foresight can set the stage for emergence, I think, is very similar to the idea of working at the level of metaphor and reframing conversations. You know, we have practices around looking at things that are happening now and projecting them into the future. But it's also quite a profound exercise to imagine things that seem completely impossible now, because that conversation of making space for the impossible makes room in people's minds for something different to emerge. So, you know, one example of that you know I've been talking about for years and I'm working on pretty much constantly is looking at ecological paradigms for organizing human activity. So what is like permaculture for humanity, basically? And if you approach different topics, you know, you can imagine them either functioning like really well-organized ecosystems that have reached sort of a climax state, or you can imagine them as disrupted ecosystems that have that are more like, you know, a half clear-cut jungle that are trying to evolve into a different sort of balance, trying to find new feedback loops. One of my goals in the way that I frame my forecast around the logic of biological systems is to try to move past that, to try to move into language that allows us more malleability, like the language of neuroscience and neuroplasticity allows us to think about more malleability in the world, or that allows sort of more just relationships to be the default setting of conversation. There's sort of a cyclical relationship between futures and design. If you go back to Buckminster Fuller, you know, what he's talking about, I feel, describes much of my work in futuring, but he's a designer and he's actually talking about design science and invention and creating new paradigms. And you know, I think we're sort of moving into a space now where there's a lot of designers who are really interested in what I do, and I'm really interested in what a lot of designers do. So I think the futures that designers have in their head and the relationship that futurists have to designers are at a moment right now where they're very close together. There is a quite compelling sense that the kinds of futures that we want to see in the world can't just be abstract. They need to be more concrete. And, you know, projects like, you know, the project that we're doing for Rockefeller on the future of ending poverty, Catalyst for Change, that groups can design solutions for their own communities using our foresight. So using foresight as an input and as an inspiration towards design, not in the sense of, you know, building chairs and devices, but design in the sense of making communities that we want to live in, surrounded by objects and landscapes that make us feel a greater sense of well-being.